This is the screencast for section 1.3, example 5. We're going to analyze a version of a basic function. In example 5, it asks us to graph x minus 2 quantity squared. So our basic function is x squared. We're going to take that input and subtract 2 first before squaring it. I already have that up in my calculator to help us with the analysis. On what interval is the function increasing? On what interval is it decreasing? Well, it looks like the function is decreasing from negative infinity to about 2, because this is a basic parabola, so I know it's not going to do anything funky out here. It's just going to go from negative infinity to negative 2, decrease, and then from negative 2 to positive infinity on the x-axis, increase. Just to check, second calc, let's go with minimum. My left bound, enter. Somewhere off to the right, I'm going to enter for the right bound, and then I'm going to go back on the guess, enter. And there's the minimum. Now it says 2.000001, and then it says 1.022 e to the negative 12. What that e means is scientific notation, times 10 to the negative 12. So you're going to move that decimal left 12 places. Your calculator is not a perfect machine. This is actually the point 2, comma 0. I know that because if I plug in 2 for x and I subtract 2, I get 0, and 0 squared is 0. But your calculator just doesn't have the ability to find it exactly. No big deal. It is, let's see, the function is decreasing then from negative infinity to the x value 2, and then increasing from that x value 2 all the way out to positive infinity on the x-axis. The function is still moving up. Now we actually already answered our question for part C. Does the function have any extrema? Well, extrema are related to decreasing and increasing. The function, when it changes from decreasing to increasing, I have a minimum. Specifically, this one is an absolute minimum. Because it's a parabola, the function isn't going to get any lower than that minimum right there. So we have an absolute min at 2, comma 0. Going back up to part B, is the function odd, even, or neither? Well, it's actually going to be neither. I can very clearly see that from the graph. Plus, if I plug in negative x, there isn't much simplification I can do here. And the result is not all opposite or all the same as the original function, so there is neither odd nor even symmetry. Part D, how does the graph relate to the graph of the basic function y equals x squared? I'm going to go back to my calculator, and in y2, I'm going to put in x squared and see exactly how they relate. So this is the graph of x squared, and I can tell because if I hit trace, this is y1, this function that I'm on right now is x minus 2 squared. The other one, if I hit up, is y2, x squared, this function. It looks like the original function was right on the origin, and this one, the graph we're dealing with here in example 5, was shifted over to the right too. The now try problem for example 5 is number 35. R of x equals the square root of x minus 10. Now I entered it into y equals, I hit graph, and I don't see anything. So I'm going to hit the trace key, and I see no values. So I have to think algebraically and numerically, what will happen when I plug in some x values? Well, if I plug in 0, I get negatives, so that's why the function isn't working right here. This isn't in the domain. The domain is all the way out by positive 10 and greater. So I'm going to change my window. To have my x max be, I don't know, maybe positive 20. I technically don't even need to see any to the left of the y-axis, so maybe I'll make my x min, I'll keep it at negative 10. That's fine. And there you can see it. I'm going to make sure, let's see, I'm going to hit trace and see exactly what's happening at that value of 10. We do hit 10 comma 0, which I already knew that because I know that the 10 minus 10 is 0 and the square root of 0 is 0. But this will help me with my analysis. On what interval, if any, is the function increasing or decreasing? Well, this whole function is increasing on its entire domain. So we'll put increasing from 10. It starts right off the bat increasing all the way out to positive infinity on the x-axis. The graph is still moving up somewhere. Part B, is the function odd, even, or neither? The function is definitely neither symmetry. If I plug in negative x, there's not much simplification that can be done, and I don't end up with the exact opposite or the same as regular r of x, so there is neither symmetry. The function's extrema. Well, we found it. It's actually this minimum right here. That's where the graph stops, and then it increases after that. So this is the lowest point on the entire graph. So we have an absolute minimum at 10 comma 0. Part D, how does the graph relate to the graph of one of the 12 basic functions? Well, I can see the basic function in there is y equals square root of x. And I know, because I'm starting to memorize these functions and what they look like, that the square root of x is going to look something like this. So the square root of x minus 10 looks like it's just shifted over to the right 10 units.